Fact over fiction.
Okay, fact over fiction.
And so I want to cover a little bit of everything. I want to talk about kids, fact over fiction. I want to talk about health and vitality, fact over fiction. I want to talk about marriage. I want to talk about business, especially working together, husband and wife. Like, that's logo land, and how they're dealing with the Republican side, the Democratic side, the nonsense that's going on with the RNC and DNC and all of the stuff. I might challenge that your head is on straight. I might challenge whether or not you are actually applying common sense. I might even challenge your love for this country, because we've got all of these people that are applying a lack of common sense, and they're fighting for their party regardless of how ridiculous they are, and it is absolutely un-American. Fact over fiction.
All right, I was expecting something a little more pow, but
that's it. Fact. Like, it's not faith over fear, which is a thing, but it's fact over fiction.
Bullshit.
Yeah. Well, you could say it that way too. Fact over fiction.
Okay, fact over fiction.
And so I want to cover a little bit of everything. I want to talk about kids, fact over fiction. I want to talk about health and vitality, fact over fiction. I want to talk about marriage. I want to talk about business, especially working together, husband and wife. Like, that's logo land.
I know.
You were yelling at me earlier, so.
I told you I quit again.
She quit, straight up. Facts.
That was facts.
No cap.
I said either this or I quit. It wasn't like I just quit.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to start with the one that I think is on my heart today, for whatever reason. I'm not really sure, but it's the whole health and vitality thing. We went shopping here recently, and I walked into a store, and there was a mannequin, and it was an oversized mannequin, and I had never seen an oversized mannequin before. Like, it felt like it was out of place. It wasn't a big and tall shop. It wasn't one of those kinds of places. It was like a sporting goods, an athletic place.
It was a Nike. It was in a.
Well, I'm not trying not to call out a place,
sorry.
But
well,
yeah, sorry. Sue her, not me. But no, like, it kind of took my breath away. I remember I stood there for a minute.
Yeah, you were audibly disturbed, visibly, audibly, all the things.
Yeah.
You were not impressed.
No. And I don't know. You hear all the noise in the background?
Is that your kids, or is that the construction?
No, it's a construction. So we're going to have all kinds of craziness, because this is life. This is actually real life. And this is how it goes when you have a flood in your house and you lose your kitchen. And so we're trying to do all the things. So it is just not a sterile cockpit.
There's not a sterile cockpit, no. But it honestly never is. It's just less non-sterile than normal.
Yeah. So anyway, so we go to this thing, and I see this, and so I'm impacted by it because of its meaning, and its meaning to me was this whole, body positivity, which on its surface is right on, right? Like, we should all be we should all be positive. We should all be proud of the work that we do. It's all levels. It's all a journey, right? Like, you don't just arrive as the champion. And yet, it feels to me like we're spending a lot of time talking about things that aren't the truth, that aren't the facts. Because the facts are that your health and vitality is the most important thing, period. It impacts everything.
And if you don't believe that, just ask somebody who has lost their health and vitality and that are living in chronic disease or even fatal disease. So is there a question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting there. But I'm trying to, like, it's so funny when on paper, this was a really easy conversation to have, and then all of a sudden I'm doing it, and I'm feeling the discomfort of even having the conversation, and honestly, what I get is, like, when you talk about health and vitality, when you talk about people being overweight, when you talk about people eating poorly or drinking or putting toxins into their body, it becomes this, oh, well, they're judgy and they're rude, and it's this judgmental thing. And I don't mean it that way. I really honestly do not mean it that way, because I put things in my body that I shouldn't, right? I drank, or if I smoke a cigar, or if I eat poorly. So I'm preaching to me as much as I'm preaching to anybody else. But I do have this passion around saying, hey, somebody's got to tell the truth. How being obese, what are the stats?
So the stats are 87% of Americans are overweight or obese, I think was the last. It's in the 80s. But more are obese, considered obese, than are considered overweight. And so I think where you're going with this, so I'm just going to take some liberty, is that you can talk about somebody and call them out for smoking. And we all know that that's bad for your health and nobody should smoke. If you smoke, you should stop. Or smoke less, because you know that it's not adding anything positive to your health. For some reason, you can do the same thing about alcoholics too, but for some reason, if you're too thin, people can poke fun at you until you go eat a cheeseburger. But if you're overweight, the whole body positivity thing, I am completely behind, because I think you should love the skin you're in, but it also has done a disservice in that it's almost that it's preaching complacency. And complacency has no place in your health, in your marriage, in your personal development, nothing. Like, if that's all there is, then you might as well just not exist, because the whole point of being on this planet is to pursue greatness as much as we can and as fervently as we can every single day. And so if we're saying, hey, if you're overweight or obese, it's okay. We're just going to make bigger mannequins and bigger clothes, and we're going to call, like, I wear a size 0 in things, and sometimes a double 0, and that is absolutely not a size that I am, but the sizes just keep getting smaller. And so rather than saying, hey, love the skin you're in, but let's talk about how to make healthier choices, and then pursuing growth and improvement in your health and vitality, it's okay. Love the skin you're in. Just accept it and be okay. You can go ahead and gain more weight and get more unhealthy and not seek to improve your health. And that's what I have a problem with.
Right. Well, and when you say love the skin you're in, the imprints right now is the complacency. Like, it's okay to continue to treat yourself poorly with disease and fog and all the things. That's not what loving yourself looks like. Loving yourself looks like you're going to do what's necessary to pour good into you. And that's where I felt like with the mannequin, it was like, it wasn't saying, hey, I love yourself, and now let's go buy some running shoes and let's go do something. It was, oh no, it's okay. We're just going to make them bigger clothes. We're going to make Lululemon in bigger sizes, and then we're going to change the size so that you feel better about what it is that you're buying.
Well, and they've always made workout clothes in bigger sizes, but until more recently, I'm assuming, they've not had models wearing, mannequins wearing those clothes in the stores or on magazines. And I don't think love the skin you're in means that love the unhealthy choices you're making. It's that right. Don't hate on the fact that you are maybe a little bit overweight or a lot overweight, or that you're not as healthy as you like to be, or you don't like to, the way you look naked as much as you would like to do the way, to like the way you look naked, right? But it is, be proud of the body that you have and love it enough to want to make the changes to be better, to do more, to change behaviors, to be an example, whether it's to your friends, to your spouse, to your kids, to your family. That's what loving the skin you're in is to me.
Mic drop. I love it. I think one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we touched on was like all of the different impacts of being overweight. Because I think what happens is people are you start talking about it and people just immediately think of like the size. And while I get it, the way you look on the outside really is just a manifestation of what's going on the inside. And I want to talk about the inside because that's the part where I think that nobody wants to talk about. They just want to say, "Oh, well, you're overweight." Great, that's fine. I get it. But let's talk about what being overweight or out of shape is doing, because there is such thing as a skinny fat, right?
There is.
I know this personally because I think somebody I love might have called me that.
And this skinny fat is the new smoking, the new obese. I mean, it's not new, it's always been, but it's just unhealthy to be thin, but eat poorly, lack muscle density, lack bone strength, be riddled with inflammation, have gut dysbiosis, all the things that come along with being malnourished oftentimes. And oftentimes people who are overweight or obese are actually malnourished because they're not nourishing their bodies with enough of the macro and micronutrients that we need to sustain a healthy and vital lifestyle.
Okay, so I want to talk about the manifestation because you just said a bunch of stuff that I don't understand. I'm sure everybody gets it, but
Yes.
what are some of the things that it impacts? Being out of shape, skinny fat, out of shape, whatever we're going to call it.
I mean, it's just a precursor to so many of the chronic diseases they call, the four horsemen or whatever, such as diabetes and cardiovascular disease. It leads to, more brittle bones because our bodies are literally, as we're malnourished, it's leaching nutrients from our muscles and our bones and other tissues. Talk about self-esteem. It impacts your sleep. It impacts your brain cognition. It impacts your fertility. So I was just listening to this podcast recently because of the obesity epidemic, not just in the United States, but it's huge in the United States, that by the year 2055 or something like that, we will no longer be able to repopulate ourselves because there will be more people passing away than people being born, and there is a rise on infertility amongst men and women because of obesity and unhealthy lifestyles.
Yeah. We think about energy levels, which are hugely important because your energy will determine how successful you are in raising kids. I love this great line that we heard yesterday. There are no lazy kids, there are only lazy parents. That may be harsh, but truthfully, when you think about your energy level, you get up, you work all day, and you come home, and does your family get the rest of you or the best of you?
Right.
And so your energy level, brain fog, that will dictate your ability to make decisions properly, think clearly. I know that girls think better sooner than boys, but I mean, you add to it.
Boys, you men need all the help you can get to keep up. So you better dial in your health right now.
You talked about the inflation. There's inflation too.
Okay, Joe Biden.
Yeah. Sleepy Todd here. We talked about inflammation. You talked about the disease, the four horsemen. How about sex drive?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of hand in hand.
I had to bring sex into this conversation.
Well, I don't think you need to be out of shape to have a low sex drive. I think it just, but no, I'm just being cheeky. But yeah, absolutely. That goes hand in hand with the fertility epidemic. If it is a chore for you to engage in that, or if you don't feel good naked, or you have to be in the dark, that's gonna impact your sex drive for sure, and your energy levels, and then also it's going to impact the connection with your spouse.
Sexual performance, I think, goes into that. You see increased dysfunction. I'll just leave it at that. With being out of shape, that's both being too thin, skinny fat, as well as being overweight. One that I have really experienced is sort of that hormone balance or imbalance and moods. When I'm eating clean, when I'm getting leaner, when I'm feeding my body with fuel and not eat for fuel, not fun. Right. Man, my moods are so much more consistent. I'm less triggered. I don't have the peaks and valleys emotionally. So I really think that this has a huge impact on not just physical health, but mental health.
Well, mental health, and from a cellular level, because if your body is not getting the nutrients to fuel it, the proper nutrients, and your diet is relatively unhealthy, it dysregulates all your hormones, from your ghrelin and leptin, which are your hunger hormones, your cortisol, Don't even get me started on your thyroid hormones. So yeah, all of them, and they're all interconnected. Your pituitary gland is your operating system, and if your brain's not getting the fuel to thrive, then it's going to go haywire. It's like a cyber attack, honestly.
Oh God, don't even say that.
All right, I won't. I did. Sorry.
You did. All right. So hopefully that sheds a little bit of light on the importance of being healthy, and it's not vain to be healthy. Like we're talking about physical and emotional and mental health, not only for you but the people around you. And if you're a leader in business, you've got a lot of people. If you're a parent, if you have a significant other, if you're in your community, like these are really, really big, heady topics that have got to be dealt with in fact, not the fiction. We've got to stop downplaying its importance. So now that we've talked about that, and hopefully the listener gets it, can you help us better understand what we should be doing to solve it?
Well, and it's not even about vanity. I think so much when people are talking about, reaching having these health and fitness goals, it is about a number. It is about a clothing size. It is about a weight on the scale. It is about how much they can bench press or leg press or squat, how waist circumference, whatever. It's tied to a number. And I hate that because that's all great. And that's progress. That's results. That's how you can measure that you're on the right track. It is about health or vitality and longevity. It's not about a number. And so I always tell my clients when they talk about being on a weight loss journey, I'm like, no. Let's reframe that. It's not a weight loss journey. Is that a byproduct? Absolutely. Or it can be, it doesn't always have to be. Sometimes people that are thin, skinny fat, might gain weight because they're putting on really beautiful, lean muscle. It's about health and longevity. And so that is prioritizing your sleep, prioritizing your water consumption, prioritizing protein, minimizing ultra-processed foods. And notice I didn't say processed foods because if you roast a chicken breast, that's a processed food because you processed it. You didn't eat it raw. But the ultra-processed foods, the ones that live in your pantry, that have no expiration dates, that people in 100 years could walk into your house and it would still be viable to eat, minimizing that stuff. And I'm not saying get rid of it, but you can have it all, I do believe, just not all at once. But when you prioritize all the other things, you're going to want the unhealthy stuff a lot less. And then, of course, movement. You want to move your body with resistance as much as possible. So even if I always, like my older clients, I will have them walk with weighted vests because then they're putting some what's the word I'm looking for?
Added stress?
Stress or weight bearing to their muscles and bones, and that helps your bone strength, especially as we get older, because then what happens as we get older, we lose our muscle strength, and then what happens to our bones? They get weaker as well because they're supported by our muscles. Then someone falls and they break a hip or an ankle or a shoulder or an arm or whatever, and then that mortality of that is terrible. So prioritizing your sleep, hydration, nutrition, and movement, and crowd out. Don't cut out.
Yeah. I think many of the people that are watching and listening to this are business badasses, and so I totally get it because firsthand I understand how easy it is to lose track of your health and your journey to build a great business. What I would say is that you are so good at running and building a business. Approach your health and vitality with the same level of focus, discipline, and scale. That structure, that process that made you successful in growing a business is the same thing that's going to make you successful in getting control of your health and vitality. So treat it like a business. You know what your goals are. If you don't, you can hire somebody that can help you identify what a reasonable goal is. You and I both know that you have to know why you're doing it. And it's not just, I want to look better. It really isn't that. Most of us, if not almost all of us, will be far more disciplined because we're terrified of failing for a particular reason. So understanding why we're doing what we're doing becomes a critical piece. And then coming up with a plan, tracking and measuring the inputs on that plan, and having somebody that can hold you accountable to achieving that plan. That's what it comes down to. And you all are badasses in this space. You got this. Make America make sense again. That is brilliant. Well, let's talk about it, because this is kind of a crazy deal. Common sense has left America. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I'm going to say something that is going to make a bunch of people mad. You ready? If you are not appalled by the mainstream media and how they're dealing with the Republican side, the Democratic side, the nonsense that's going on with the RNC and DNC and all of the stuff, I might challenge that your head is on straight. I might challenge whether or not you are actually applying common sense. I might even challenge your love for this country, because we've got all of these people that are applying a lack of common sense, and they're fighting for their party regardless of how ridiculous they are, and it is absolutely un-American. What do you say?
Yeah, it's called identity politics. I was just listening to something where a woman, it was a panel of all African Americans, and a woman said she was going to vote for Kamala because she was black and she was a woman. And then she was completely shut down by another panelist. Again, they were all African Americans. There were men and women on the panel about, what has she done for black or women? And Obama, for that matter, too, he brought up Obama's policy and how Obama didn't, champion anything for African Americans. In fact, the population that he helped the most is low-income elderly people. And I'm assuming that was Obamacare, but Kamala and her border czar, don't come in, but she never visited anywhere, and they all listened to her really well. And so in these African American and Democratic neighborhoods and states, they are being bankrupted by crime, by the handouts, whether it be free hotel rooms or whatnot in New York City. I mean, he just went off and put her in her place. And that's the thing is, I don't care what party it is. It's not about party. It's about policy. It's about our country. It's about what we stand up for and what we believe in. We have core values in our organization, and we hire and fire to those core values, and we hold them so close to our hearts, and we do not waver. And that's what it's about. But people are getting so polarized and just allowing popular opinion, or even, it doesn't even have to be that popular, but just opinion and ridiculous rhetoric become their barometer for making very important decisions.
We should be outraged that somebody running for the president of the United States was shot at. We should be outraged. And yet there are literally people who were excited and that even made statements that they wished that the shooter had a better aim. That is un-American. And we need to call it out for what it is. Like, this is our country. This is not our politics. This is our country that we are living in, that we are raising our kids in. We need to stand up. We need to silence those people who are putting out this nonsense. And we need to bring common sense back into this place. We need to bring back this commonality in what it is that we stand for. Because here's what I know. We are all 95% the same. We all want prosperity. We all want more people to be able to feed their families. We want more people to have homes. We want more people to, have kids, build communities, have an impact. All of those things are the same. How we get there is slightly different, but 95% of who we are is the same, and that's American. That is not where I was going with that, but I'm glad we did.
I'm glad we
All right, but let's talk about common sense. So we talk about common sense. We talk about common sense. We just talked about health and vitality. Common sense, okay? Let's bring common sense back. We talk about, kids and business and now politics, and I want to talk about marriage.
Okay. This is fact or fiction.
Fact or fiction, right? Fact or fiction.
No, it's not about common sense, but...
Well, yeah, may not be very common, but it used to be.
Right, but it's just, common sense is what it is, but there is fact and there is fiction, and it seems that common sense has left the building, it has left America, and people are giving more weight to the fiction rather than even fact checking. Like, I go through There's a gentleman that I follow, speaking of health and vitality, sorry, I'm going to segue a bit, Dr. Pompa, and he put out, it was Oreos, about all of the chemicals and all the bad stuff in Oreos. And yes, Oreos are not the healthiest food, of course. They're very bad for you, but damn are they good in a glass of milk. So again, you can have it all, just not all at once. But he was going on to say how the emblem for Oreos was like a satanic emblem, and it was like, is it Keebler whoever owns Oreos? It's like they're underlying, trying to brainwash everybody into worshiping Satan. People were in the comments, I'm never eating Oreos again. This is horrible. Well, nobody took the time to go fact check that, and the guy was totally wrong. It's actually biblical. It's like good versus evil, and it was like some I don't know, some organization years and years ago, like hundreds of years ago. It was their logo, and it was about the triumph of good over evil. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like we just take someone saying something that is absolute fact, rather than doing our own fact checking to see, informing our own opinions to see if that's actually in alignment with our truths or the truth.
What's crazy about that is, speaking of the fact versus fiction, right? That was fiction. Here was somebody that had some kind of influence, some kind of a platform to be able to talk about that. That's mainstream media at its grossest, right? Mm-hmm. And yet, when they lie, when they make this stuff up and they put it out into the world, they rarely, if ever, are held accountable to it.
No, you don't have to hold anyone accountable on social media. I can get up there and say whatever I want, and unless I use certain words that are banned and that are policed by the powers that be, which are very few, I'll never be canceled. I can say whatever I want.
Well, you'd be canceled for telling the truth, honestly. You are more apt to be canceled in this culture by telling the truth because it offended somebody than you are making stuff up that is just flat wrong and does distraction to a business or a family or community or what have you. But I wrote some things down that I want to talk about with regards to marriage and the family unit, because this is fact over fiction. So I'm just giving facts here. I'm not giving opinions. I'm just telling you fact, Brett. Right?
Okay.
Hey, and can you tell that I'm feeling like I need to make sure that I qualify everything that I say? So divorce rate. First marriage, what is it?
50%.
So when you go to your second marriage, are you better at staying married or worse at staying married?
I think it's 72% divorce rate with your second marriage.
Yeah, and third marriage, are you better now or are you worse?
Third time in marriage is not to be charmed because you're worse. It's about a 90% divorce rate, I think.
That's right. I think it's in the high 80s.
Okay.
But here's the thing. That's fact, right? And yet the fiction is, oh, hey, don't worry about it. Like you just chose wrong, right? It was their fault. He's a narcissist. She's crazy, whatever, right? Fact versus fiction. If you get divorced, it doesn't mean that you're going to do better next time.
Wherever you go, so what we tell our kids, wherever you go, there you are. Period. All your baggage, all your crap goes with you to that next relationship. And so it's an inside-out job.
I was on a podcast with Andy Elliott recently, and he kind of got me fired up about something. I am a product of divorce growing up, and we were talking about the impact of divorce on the kids, and I got fired up because we hear it a lot, right? Oh, it's okay, the kids are resilient, they'll be fine. And they will not be fine. It impacts them, period, end of story. It's fact, and yet we don't talk about the fact. And so I'm gonna read you some data about facts. You ready? Boy, somebody's not gonna like this. All right, this is kids and crime. These are crime statistics based on children. All right, 2 parents in the home versus a broken home. Broken home, right? We talk about them as deadbeat dads, right? And super women moms. That's how it was when I was growing up, right? Like, oh yeah, deadbeat dads or whatever, right? And what happens is we're literally tearing down males in our society. and we're lifting up women as single moms, right? They must be amazing if they're, single moms, but that must be a deadbeat if he's divorced and has kids. So anyway, it makes me mad. But here's the deal. Kids from broken homes are 3 times, 300% more likely to commit serious crimes. That's the facts. The fiction is the kids are fine, though they're resilient.
Yeah. What about drug use? What about alcohol use? What about grades?
Yeah. So this is what I wrote down. If you want to stop or slow crime rates, focus on families. Again, it's common sense.
Yeah.
Focus on families. It's one of the reasons why you and I, even in a business setting, talk about marriage, which is very non-traditional for us to do, but it's important. We feel passionate about it.
Well, because we've also seen what it's like to not have a great marriage and not be super connected and be thriving, like literally be surviving our marriage. And that also does a disservice to the kids. But we didn't get divorced. We both believed in the commitment, the covenant we made to God and each other to stay married. But we didn't know how to do it well. And until we